Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Historical Humans Reacts. Today in the news, we had something that popped up that was quite fascinating, where ancient artifacts seized by the United States from a billionaire was among 142 looted items that were returned to Italy. So, a lot of times, most artifacts that you see on the market, whether they claim to be authentic or claim to be legitimate, 9 times out of 10 were looted at some point, usually a couple hundred years ago before they entered the marketplace. But, yeah.
Yeah, just one of the things here is with a lot of these laws and a lot of people who do it usually don't get punished. They usually do not punish collectors or the rich people who receive these artifacts. Most of the laws tend to target the people actually taking it out of the ground, not the people who are giving them money to do it. So this little story is pretty nice for us, getting to see one of the propagators of this activity face some justice because it's usually only the guy with the shovel who ever gets punished.
And even there are laws now specifically targeting the ancient artifact trade and sales. Like I said, most of them tend to be illegitimate, but even for the legitimate ones, it's becoming more and more difficult to trade in those and to conduct business with ancient artifacts. In fact, a lot of people are actually getting caught up for purchasing looted artifacts. And a couple of years ago, there was a really prominent case where the American company Hobby Lobby had purchased what was it, over $10 million, $100 million worth of stolen artifacts.
I don't remember. It was an absurdly large amount. Probably about the same as what Steinhardt, our lovely centerpiece for this story, probably about as much as he agreed to give up for this, because he gives up about $70 million in artifacts to avoid going
Oh
to jail for what he did.
God, that's a staggering amount. Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you scroll down the article, you can see a Vesuvian fresco of Hercules, which is
Wow.
worth millions on its own. This was ripped out of the ground near Vesuvius, and if you know anything about Mount Vesuvius, it's one of the most rich cultural contexts we have for heritage anywhere in the world. It is surrounded by perfectly preserved, buried cities in volcanic ash. And so this getting torn out of the ground somewhere in that area did untold damage to what we could understand of our past. Because who knows what else they had to dig through to get at it.
Yeah, and they're not usually very cognizant of what they might be going through to target the expensive items. A lot of
Yep.
times they will just completely discard certain things. Like Pompeii was a very prominent site, especially because where the people had been during the eruption were quite literally cast in these voids of volcanic ash after their bodies decomposed.
Yeah, so they're gonna ignore the body cavities in the dirt. They're gonna ignore or worse tear through any sort of standing building because unfortunately a colonnade does not sell.
And it's really unfortunate because there's this very big context and argument between archaeologists and looters and recreational hobbyist archaeologists, avocational item collectors, of what constitutes looting, what constitutes ownership, who gets the right to dig. Because for the archaeologists like myself, it's very important to maintain the integrity and the context of the site because that's where we're able to maintain a lot of the data. We're not trying to keep the artifacts away from collectors. We're not trying to just keep it all to ourselves, but there's valuable information that could be acquired just from
Mm-hmm.
looking at that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and it's it's a lot of responsibility trying to figure out who and what has the right to even look at this and how you go about getting that right. What is not disputed is how in the wrong people are in this case, as with I can't say his name, Steinhardt here.
Yeah,
Uh, he
billionaire Michael Steinhardt.
he released 180 artifacts worth about $70 million.
14 million it was saying here.
Yeah, no, there's a statue valued at 14 million. The
Interesting.
the total 180 artifacts
Oh, okay, I see
are
there.
worth
Yeah.
70 million. There is one
Wow.
artifact alone worth 14 million. He
Wow.
has been linked to 1,000 stolen antiquities from 12 separate criminal organizations.
And that's the other thing too that a lot of people don't quite realize is a lot of these rings are associated with crime rings with specific organizations like the whole Hobby Lobby thing. Hobby Lobby directly purchased all of their looted artifacts from the Islamic State.
Mm-hmm.
So they
Yep.
were funding bad organizations. I won't use the word because YouTube will
Yeah.
demonetize this
YouTube.
video, but like
They were
they
funding tourism. Tourism.
well,
I'm enunciating very clearly YouTube auto-generated captions. Tourism.
yeah. So, it's not good people who sell the artifacts. Like I
No.
said, there may be a few legitimate ones and like you'll see historic cases of antiques and these historic items being sold at like Sotheby's or like any of the big auctions, which again will have credentials, but if you ask the people where the items originate, 9 times out of 10 they're not going to say, "Oh yeah, we got rid of that on purpose."
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff too with like trying to ascribe guilt with looted artifacts. Like, for example, when I was in my undergrad, I was doing some research in a museum we had on our campus, and I came across a statue, a legitimate statue from the first century CE from the Vesuvius area that the museum had absolutely no idea why it was there or how it got there. It had been dumped on their doorstep one night, and they have just been taking care of it for forever. They dated it, but they had no idea. They had no idea why it was, how it got there.
And that's a really bizarre phenomena that happens to a lot of museums where they're referred to as orphan collections because a lot of times they are just dropped off at the doorstep of the museum. They are just anonymously donated. They're just randomly gifted because people will inherit collections and not know what to do with them, have no place to go. They and the thing that really sucks with it is a lot of times these collections don't have any information. All
Mm-hmm.
of the value in the items, their history, their backstory, everything to go with them is just completely lost.
Like all we had with the statue in question is we knew who it was, we know where the rock came from that it was made out of, and we knew about the time that would have been made.
Yeah.
And it was Vesuvius first century, so about the Pompeii time. So that's probably something that came out of the same place where this fresco came out of.
Yeah, which is insane that he had so many items that were improperly acquired and like you said the a rare statue valued at 14 million was returned and it's great to hear that some of these items are being returned. However, it's a question of how little, how late.
Yeah, I will say I'm very happy with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office for prosecuting Steinhardt and for seeing to it that the artifacts actually make their way back across the sea to their home countries, all of them. And so I'm very happy with that. I'm a little unhappy that he only had to relinquish less than 20% of his stolen loot to avoid jail time. Personally, I think that if you are in possession of a stolen object, you automatically forfeit said object when the police come asking for it.
I There's also a point towards the end of the article that really makes me chuckle where the Royal Athena Galleries, a defunct New York gallery founded by the late antiquities dealer and forgery expert Jerome M. Eisenberg, basically dealt a lot of the stolen goods and had some of the stolen goods in their collections but they were thanked by the district's attorney for their cooperation in the investigation.
Yeah. Basically, they committed a lot of crime, but then they agreed to turn on their clients the second the police showed up at the door.
And walked away.
Which I do appreciate. I do appreciate it when criminals turn on other criminals, because then we get to catch more criminals. I do like that.
Yeah.
However, it can rub you the wrong way that these people who are enabling this openly are are getting away with it. But there is still a major win in the article, regardless of that point or any of the others that we've made, and that is that there is now precedent, thanks to this case, for imposing lifetime bans on people for buying antiquities.
Yes.
As Steinhardt is the first person to receive such a ban, and it's kind of an overdue measure, in my opinion, of saying, if we catch you prolifically committing this crime, you ever do anything like it again, we arrest you.
Yes, we do support that. We support punishment for their actions.
Yeah.
But yeah, we saw this article and it came out in the news yesterday, and it's a very interesting case. You don't usually hear about these looters being prosecuted, and definitely not to this extent. And it's a huge, huge win to see these items go back to their countries of origin and be properly repatriated. And, it's something that always interests us archaeologists, because we deal in antiquities, but we deal in the ethical side of it, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we do. We do deal in the ethical side of it. And just one last comment, so the analogy comes to mind. Basically with this ban, the big idea is that, if you're known for breaking bad in your way through life, I'm going to have some serious questions about why you're buying Sudafed.
And on that lovely analogy, if you guys like the video, drop a like down below. Be sure to subscribe for more content like this, and be sure to follow along. We have a lot of other great series, like our HH Reads, our shorts, and our main podcast that we release every other Monday. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you all next week.